Guys, so I had somebody ask if I could show how I made my inner fenders for my SCX10, and basically what I used was some styrene I had. This is actually the biggest piece I had left. I wasn't going to use this. I had some scraps left, and I ended up using the scrap pieces to make my fenders. But I'm going to go ahead and show you guys basically what I did. First off, I took some measurements, and took some measurements of the outside of my fenders on the body, just to kind of get an idea of where I needed to make my bends at, and get an idea about how wide they needed to be. Styrene's pretty easy to work with. I mean, it's not too bad. Just takes some practice. Takes some practice to get used to, not really get used to it, but to get little tricks to it. And once you learn all the little tricks, you can pretty much build anything, I guess. I'm still very green when it comes to working with styrene. I've built just a couple things. I built a little toolbox in the back of my Bronco, and I built a couple light buckets. I built this light bucket here that there's going to be on my Galande. It's not quite finished yet, but it's a light bucket I built, or not light bucket, but LED light bar. But yeah, so practice. I mean, get you some styrene and get you some different shapes. Get you some angle. Get you some tubing. I got all kinds of stuff. Some of the stuff I've had for 2 years now and haven't used. Basically, just took my ruler, stuck it up in every top of the tire, and I think the outside of my fender was right at about 1 3/4 inches. So I come back, measured about 1.5 inches, and that's how wide I made my piece. Now it's going to give me a little bit of room for what I called my back plate, which I'll be making here in just a second after we get to this .80 is pretty thick, probably a little overkill for what I needed. Once you score it a few times like that, it just snaps right off. Now, the way I measured where I wanted my bends to be, I actually had this part in two separate pieces. Okay, basically, I just held it up to the truck on the outside. We use this Galande as an example here. Basically, I just held it up to the truck and made a mark where my bend started on my fender on my Bronco. Just held it up, made a mark, brought it back down here. Brought it back down here to the table. Scored it. Alright, I'm going to show you guys a little trick I learned. Even when you're making 90-degree bends, or you're going to make a 90-degree piece, You take two pieces, butt them together. If you can do it this way, it makes it a little bit easier. It makes a nicer angle, a nicer corner. Basically, just put your straight edge on your mark. And watch this. Alright. That's it. You can make that bend as far out or as close as you want. And you're going to have a nice tight corner there. My styrene on that angle. This is the kind of cement I use. You can get this at your local hobby shop or online. And basically I just took the brush, this stuff works pretty quickly. I'm going to get me a piece of glass that I can lay down over top of my work area, so when I'm doing this, you know, this stuff won't stick to glass as easy as it'll stick to. Alright, well, I did mine a little bit different than I'm making this one, and I didn't think that was quite, maybe that's not the best idea. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and cut this one. Go ahead and cut this piece completely in half. That way I can show you guys exactly how I made mine. Alright, so there's my first piece. I got it set up. Alright, I took my second piece. I basically held it up to the truck, just like we did before. Figured out where I wanted my line at. Make a couple scores. Do the same thing. Slightly bend it. And put it up there where it can start forming to get the correct angle we want. I let that sit for a little while. And this stuff will flow right down the cracks. It'll go right where you want it to go. It's called capillary action. Do it on those 3 sides, 4 sides, 4 corners. Get it everywhere. This stuff, like I said, it works pretty fast. Get you some clamps or something, that whatever you use to hold your projects together while they're gluing. Just let it do its thing for a little bit. Let it bond. Most of the time when I'm making something out of styrene or repairing something out of styrene, this stuff is great to have around the house. Even if you don't plan on making anything out of styrene or whatever, this is a great product to have around the house, especially if you got kids. I can't tell you how many toys I have fixed with this shit. It works great on most plastic, ABS. There's a couple different solvents like that. There's plastic weld, there's plastic bonding, there's another kind. It's outside my building, but I didn't have as much luck with it, so we won't even get into that one. But this is my favorite one of the bunch. But anyways, usually when I'm making a project, I usually go over it a couple times within a reasonable amount of time, within 15 or 20 minutes. of each application I'll make another one. And I usually do that at least 3 times, just to try to ensure a good bond. Again, that's personal preference. Sometimes one application will be enough. Sometimes you'll need 2 or 3. But there's our second application. I'll go ahead and do the third application off camera, and we'll come back and we'll make our back plate. Alright guys, for my back plate on my inner fender, basically I just laid it out on top of another piece of .80 styrene. And I had it designed to work with. Again, a lot of this, for me anyhow, is eyeball engineering. you can go back and you can fix mistakes. Styrene is, I found, in my opinion, somewhat forgiving. You can make mistakes and you can fix them. Sanding your pieces after you cut them, that's very important on certain applications for sure. This one, as long as your cuts are pretty straight, in making your inner fenders, it's not all that necessary. But when you're sanding styrene, there's a trick to making it even. If you need 4 even sides, you're gonna make a box. You're gonna make something that needs to be even on all sides. You want to, do all 4 sides the same. You want to turn it and do it both directions and all. It just will even up your edges, make them nice and smooth and flat. But on this application, it's not that important for it to be perfect. We're not looking for perfection here. Alright, so when you're ready to put your back plate on, just like on my Bronco, when I measured my back plate, I left a little bit of overhang here in the back, and I did that for a reason. It needed to stick down a little bit further than my back plate did, to give me a little bit more protection, but I didn't want my back plate to hang down below the frame rails. So on my Bronco, I actually left a little bit extra in the front and the back. So get the top flush and even. Don't worry about the ends yet. They're gonna move a little bit during this whole process because of the angle cuts you got there. But that's gonna strengthen up and stay once you get her sit on this back plate. You just want to make sure that your back plate is cut. You want to make sure your back plate is cut the proper length and the proper angles on the ends. And you'll be able to move those up where you want them. Do them as well. So I'm going to let that top piece set up a little bit. Go ahead and get the inside here. Let that back plate, I said top piece, back plate. Let that back plate sit up a little bit. And then get the sides going. Alright, try to get this finished up here. On the end piece here, you just want to get it where you want it. You can actually go ahead and it doesn't have to be right on. Just go ahead and get you some glue started. Move that into position where you want it. Put a little pressure on it briefly to help it set up. Make sure it stays in place. Other side, same thing. Try to move it up about where I want it. And hold it in place. And what I did once my fenders were pretty much done, I went back through. Once the outside had pretty much completely bonded, I went through on my creases just to add a little bit more, just to ensure that they bonded. I got a little bit too much there. It's not going to move at all. But yeah, just kind of go through and do your fronts and backs, your angles, and get everything. Make sure you didn't miss a spot. Take them and hold them up into place. Take your shock off your shock tower. Hold it up into place. Depending on how you want to mount it. I just mounted it directly to the same holes. I mounted it with 2 holes. One of the holes is the same hole my shock. The screw that goes through my shock cap. I used one of those holes, and then the hole on the other side of my shock tower. So this one here is probably going to be one of 2 that I'm going to use for my Galande. It's kind of why I went off of it rather than off my Bronco. Alright guys, I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope this helped you a little bit. Help you maybe make your own inner fenders for your trucks. You guys keep the great inspirational videos coming, and see you on the trail.